Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to test another material. It's going to be ARRTX acrylic markers. Just look at this beautiful box. I also decided to wear my chin t-shirt. So what we're going to do today, of course, traditionally we're going to unpack them, to swatch, and I will try to create several sketches using them. In general, I am familiar with acrylic markers and mostly I use them in my sketching process, and I mostly use them to add some extra details over my tempera or gouache paintings. And I've never tried to use acrylic markers, independently, solely, and basically that is what I'm going to do today. But before we start it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. That would be great. The markers arrived in a lovely, beautifully designed box filled with the markers themselves. Wow, what a surprise! And some spare tips. The markers are super cute and I really like the colorful pattern of them. I don't know, it feels like they were created with attention to details and with love. Each marker also includes instruction for activation printed on it, which is from one side useful, I suppose, but from the other side it feels a bit unnecessary since the process is pretty simple and instruction is pretty simple, and as you done it once, you probably can remember it, how to do it. So yeah, it felt a little bit strange. By the way, this video is not sponsored by ARRTX, and you're getting a 100% honest review here. The unpacking part was pretty quick. The markers don't come in a separate case, but that's okay for me. I'm fine keeping them in the box since it looks so nice and it's pretty sturdy, so yeah. This set includes 48 colors, and at first glance I'm happy with the color selection, but of course I need to swatch them before, making any conclusions about colors. That is a super essential step, so we're going to do it right now. Unfortunately, there is no swatching sheet included in the box. By the way, why ARRTX? I mean, yeah, it is not an essential thing, but yeah, it is very nice to have a swatching sheet included with your markers. Because of this, I decided to make swatches in my sketchbook instead. Before we start, the first thing to do is shake the markers properly. You shake them first, press the tip down several times, and once the pigment appears in the tip, the ink flows out very smooth. Why this swatching is so important, especially with markers? Because the colors on the marker caps often differ slightly from the wet pigment and especially the dry pigment on paper. So swatching gives you a more accurate picture of how the colors will look, in real life. Honestly, at some point I got pretty tired of activating markers one by one because I needed to activate all my markers for swatching. So let me introduce you to my unique multi-shaking technique. Yeah, it works lovely, it works well. Here is a look at the pigment before shaking. As you can see, it is very separated and you need to shake it properly to turn this separated substance into something whole. I think it is a good moment to tell you about my Patreon. Here are some things you can find there. Color exploration posts for your inspiration, tutorials, my textured brush set for Procreate, long process videos, digital art prints, exclusive sketches, and more. I would be happy to see in my tiny creative community. There's no pressure, of course. Thank you so much for your attention, and now let's get back to the video. By the way, I think it's fantastic that the markers have a tiny transparent line, so you can see what's inside, you can see how much pigment you have inside, and you can see whether it is mixed well. So yeah, I think it's great. Once activated, the pigment flows out very smoothly, very effortlessly, and yeah, it feels very great. There is no need to apply any pressure, like no pressure at all, and I don't know, it kind of felt very strange because I can't imagine my life without pressure. I mean, happy life. Okay, jokes aside, the ink really comes out very easily, and the one thing I absolutely love is how vibrant the pigment is. As I expected from the very beginning, the colors become a bit less saturated once dry and don't always match the caps exactly, but still they remain beautifully vibrant, which is great. Here is the finalized swatching sheet. You can see the color selection in a more realistic way, you know, the way they appear in real life, and their texture. I'm absolutely in love with the pinks, purples, reds. I just think this selection is very, very nice and various, and I don't know, blues and some of greens look fantastic too. Before actually drawing something with the markers, I decided to run a few tests. The first question that came to my mind was, can I control the line thickness? And the answer is no. Regardless of how much pressure you apply, the line thickness stays pretty consistent. And I believe that for some people, for some painting, sketching techniques, it can be a wonderful thing, it can be definitely an advantage, but for my sketching style, I believe it's mostly a drawback. I also wanted to experiment with color mixing a little bit, so I tried creating several gradients. Honestly, I think that the result was okay, but I didn't like the process, and additionally it is very easy for the marker tip to get stained with another color during this blending, and yeah, cleaning the tip takes some time, so I decided just it doesn't worth it. I decided to avoid these color mixing techniques in my sketching process, and that's why I decided to work mostly in flat colors, you know, using these markers. I've prepared a messy sketch, so let's dive into painting it finally. I started with a larger sketch and with the background, and here is my first impression of working on a pretty large area. I believe the tip size feels a little bit limiting. I believe it is not big enough to cover large spaces efficiently, and at the same time it is not very effective for super small details, so it is something in between. Remember how I mentioned that pressure doesn't affect line thickness? Well, it stays the same. And throughout my process I discovered something else. Right after activating the marker, the ink flows better, and because of this, it creates a little bit thicker lines. But over time, when you use one marker for some time, it seems to me that the ink flow reduces a little bit and the lines become thinner. So all in all, there is a way to control line thickness, but I'm not sure it can be called a control, you know? Because for me it mostly feels like inconsistency, and yeah, it is hard to control, so you just need to adapt to it as you go. As for the pigment, There is no questions to it. It's vibrant, it's rich and opaque with super nice finish, with super nice matte gouache-like finish, and I really like it so much. And again, texture is beautiful, so yeah, pigment itself is wonderful. I love it. One more thing to keep in mind while using these markers is that, I don't know, in my opinion, the pigment dries slowly. This process reminded me of working with watercolor a little bit. You need to wait a bit to avoid unwanted color mixing or smudging or staining your hand. By the way, I stained my hand several times while working on this spread, but there is no surprise because I'm a pretty impatient artist. Even though my sketchbook paper is quite thick and pretty good quality, I think it didn't handle the markers well. And I tried to avoid going over the same area too much, but sometimes it happened and my paper reacted poorly. I don't know, maybe you can see it in the video, I hope you can see it. This might be resolved by experimenting with different paper types, maybe with a more thicker paper, but for now I used what I had on hand and it is what it is, basically. But the good news is that the markers don't bleed through. They don't bleed through at all, and you don't need to worry about ruining the other side of the page, which is especially great for sketching. As I mentioned earlier, I found it a little bit hard to control the line thickness, and overall I think the marker tip didn't suit my personal style. I think that I would like a brush tip much more, and maybe someday I will try it. Once main shapes were filled, I desperately wanted to add details, to add smaller details, but I couldn't because of the tip size, and throughout the process I kept wishing these markers had a smaller tip on the other side, honestly. I don't know if I can do it. Yes, I can do it. It is not a sponsored video, so I will quickly show you what I mean. And these are ARRTX acrylic markers, and they have a dual tip design. So it is a 3mm tip on one side and a smaller tip on the other side. And I really like this design. I really like how they work. However, the problem with ARRTX markers is their pigment. It is not very good, honestly. It is very transparent and dull, and there is no that much vibrancy in it. So yeah, it makes it really hard to use them independently. So I just use them to add some details over my gouache paintings or over other markers. I know that probably I'm asking for too much, but ideally I'd love to combine ARRTX super vibrant pigment with ARRTX's dual tip design, and that would be just perfect for me. Well, I think I need to share some final thoughts in the conclusion. And I don't know, I think that I mostly share everything I wanted to say throughout the sketching process, and I shared my opinion in a pretty detailed way. So I hope that it gives you some sort of impression or some sort of understanding of these markers. Everything I shared, of course, is based on my personal experience, on my personal style. Again, it is just my personal opinion. So you can argue with my opinion if you wish. I would be happy to see some of your comments. I can say for sure that I'm completely in love with the pigment. It is vibrant, it is rich, and it has a beautiful matte finish that I really adore. However, I'm not happy with the tip, and in my opinion, I don't know, it's not perfect for filling either large areas or tiny details, which makes the process in general for me a little bit challenging. Despite some struggles along the way, I think the finish and details really brought the spread together, and overall it turned out quite nice. I would like to know what you think about it. Do you like it? Or do you hate it? I don't know. By the way, if you'd like to try these markers yourself, you can always find Amazon links down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to comment, because it is important. And yeah, see you in another video. Bye bye.